Hello, and welcome to Sleepless with Steve, or should I say, maybe without Steve, who knows. He should have been here, but he's not. This is such a great night for him to be here, and unfortunately he's not with us. He didn't die. I'm making it sound like he did. I know this is the horror show, but don't worry. Steve is well and alive and everything. Unfortunately, you could not make tonight's show, but Dom and I are here to carry things on, and we thought that, giving me and Dom a break from going to the movies so much and everything, why not talk about some of the movies we've seen this year regarding horror films. And before we go any further than that, I figure, we can introduce ourselves and the costumes that Dom and I are wearing tonight. Once again, I am Joe Viso. I am the guy who operates the board. And when I'm not here, and I'm just as Squid Game contestant number 67, the bad bitch herself, because it was between that and the guy with the glasses from Squid Game. I don't remember the actors or character names at the moment. And I chose not to be that guy with the glasses because he is a dirty rat. But when I'm not operating the board, I have this nice gentleman who's actually this way on the screen, Dominic Guanzon. Dominic, how you doing, man?
Hello there, Tool Time. Hello there, Tool Time audience. I am Tim, the woke man Taylor, making sure that all you LGBT, trans, non-binary ladies and gentlemen out there have a good time there with your home improvement needs. Thank you, Al, so much for that introduction. We don't have any tool girls here today with us, but we do have in spirit all the Tool non-binaries in our hearts. Make sure to
You good?
Did you ever watch Tool Time?
I did, yeah.
Not Tool Time.
Home Improvement.
Home Improvement.
The mini went, I was like, oh,
yeah. You got make. I just lost like half of my opening monologue, but make sure all you home improvement fans out there are well represented. Got all the yeah, all you non-binaries, stay safe out there. Thanks, Al. We'll make sure to keep okay, so like half an hour before showtime, Joe texted me and he's like, hey, don't, yeah, if you want to wear a costume, go for it. And I was like, oh my God, I just completely forgot. So I just went, okay, I saw a Tool Time meme recently. So I just went off Tim the Tool Man Taylor, Tim the Woke Man Taylor. So I am here. Tim the Woke Man Taylor for you here tonight.
I'll join you.
Oh shit, yeah, if I had the helmet, it'd be perfect.
Oh my God. But
I was standoffish in the green room today, and the reason why I was standoffish is because in the background I was listening to Tim the Toolman Taylor clips for about 15 minutes just in the background, specifically that grunt.
Getting ready for his improvising. His improvising.
It's hard. It's harder to do without sounding like you're dry heaving. But Tim Allen, a pride icon, as everyone knows. And if he's not, for some reason, I make sure that is going to be the future of Tim Allen, whether he likes it or not. Tim the Woke Man Taylor here for you today.
Oh my God, man, you're killing me right now. You're killing me. But how are you doing otherwise, man? How's everything been with you? Go ahead and
terrible.
Not be Tim the I never mind. Be Tim the Tool Man, because apparently I hit a nerve there.
No. I'm okay. It's just been busy as hell. A lot of wedding planning going on here in Guanzon land.
Yeah, that's
but that's okay. That's what I signed up for when I decided to do this. So it's all good.
It's all good. All right, that's good to hear. I'm doing fine as well. Just been busy. School has started back up for me, so that's been a big thing. Trying to stay ahead of the class whenever I got work-related events coming up, as well as my own personal stuff, like Thanksgiving's right around the corner, Christmas, and that professor was like, "You ain't getting no breaks. You're still doing this class during Thanksgiving. Don't think that like just because you have Thanksgiving means I'm giving you a week off. No, your stuff is still due." And I was like, "Cool, thanks."
Nice.
But anyways, let's talk about why we're here tonight. So tonight, it was a theme I kind of suggested to Steve, and he liked it a lot. That I was starting to notice like a trend in both critics and audiences have been really enjoying a lot of horror movies this year, and we're gonna go over that in detail. I know it says on the scroll we'll talk about the best and worst horror films. It's mainly we're just talking about horror films in general. We're not going to really classify them as the worst or the best until later on in the show. We do have a best of segment in our own personal opinion, what has been our favorites this year. But we're not going to really go into, this is the top 5 best and worst horror movies of 2022. No, I wanted to actually talk about horror, the genre, this year in general, but also the rise of it that we've been seeing, I would say, since 2017 when 2017 came out. That had a box office boom, and I think it kind of put horror movies back on the map after they kind of died off with The Conjuring coming out. Not saying The Conjuring's bad, it's just The Conjuring definitely set this precedent of, hey, supernatural stuff along with Paranormal Activity, it's selling like hotcakes. Make that every movie. Jump scares up the wazoo, everything. And it was just like, again, like both franchises, I enjoy the Paranormal Activity movies, at least most of them, not all of them. Some of them are really, really bad. And the Conjuring films, the mainline films, pretty good. The spin-offs, hit or miss, mostly miss. But I want to talk about just the rise of everything that we've been seeing and everything. Now, Dom, throw this to you for a second. How familiar are you with horror? Besides the year that you experienced reviewing these movies on Sleepless?
My cliche for this show is I'm not a horror guy, and that just trails off into whatever thing I'm going to say next, and that is very much the case before Sleepless with Steve, and even before this year, it was just not horror at all. I watched The Ring when I was like 10, and that just messed me up for life. So I just like, nah, I'm good. And then I just pretty much stopped watching that. The closest I got to a horror movie were the trailers to any movie. So I have not watched a lot of the classics, Nightmare on Elm Street, Jason, the original Halloween. I'm not. That's a complete blind spot of my film catalog, which isn't very extensive in other genres, regardless. But particularly horror, just massive blind spot. But I've been filling in the gaps recently, thanks to you guys. So, yeah.
All right, that's good. That's good. I mean, this year was a big year for Dom. A guy who just doesn't like horror movies. I mean, there was a ton this year. It feels like every studio wanted to save their big horror movies this year, and for good reason, because we saw the quality of them and we were like, hey, hold on a minute, these are actually pretty good. Now we're gonna get into some of them that some people didn't like, but we did, and we'll talk about that eventually. But let's talk about the rise in horror and like why it's been great this year. Now again, I kind of pinpointed it to 2017 with the movie It came out and it made a shit ton of money. I mean, this thing made bank. I believe it has cracked over. Let me make sure here real quick. I believe it may be the highest grossing horror film due to the popularity of Pennywise the Clown and just clowns being scary in general. And I always said this too. I still feel like what's it called? That whole time where we were experiencing clowns throughout 2016 just popping up throughout social media, I still think that was actually guerrilla marketing from Warner Brothers. No one could convince me otherwise. But
Yeah, they never confirmed it though. That's the thing. That's the funny thing.
they never did. But this movie was $35 million estimated budget. Its opening weekend, it made $123 million. And it grossed worldwide $700 million. I'm sure there's actually higher horror movies now that I see the gross of it. Maybe this is one of the higher ones or the highest. But to see that number associated with a horror film, especially at a time, if you go back through Sleepless with Steve's catalog that we have on this YouTube channel, you'll notice that there was like kind of a decrease in movies coming around that time. And this kind of was like a big revamp. Let's go back to the theater now, because between August and this movie, there was nothing coming out. Dom, did you check out It 2017?
I did not. That is none of the It movies. I am not an It guy at all, because that did genuinely scare me.
For good reason. I mean,
Trailers.
it was one of my favorite movies of 2017 because I thought it was genuinely terrifying.
It's not a slasher film.
It's not,
because one thing going into this kind of going headfirst into horror this year has been like some of the slasher movies in particular aren't that bad. They're really not bad in terms of like that scary aspect.
Yeah.
And that's partially just because so many tropes, so many cliches, so many parodies have been done here in 2022 that by the time I get to the source material, like the original Scream that I watched in preparation for the other movies, it's like, yeah, it's not that bad. It's a couple of jump scares, a couple of like, oh, that's a little creepy, but nothing that bad. It, on the other hand, it's not a slasher film. It is a Stephen King monster movie.
Yeah. Almost
So
a
that was like,
psychological,
nah, I'm good.
almost psychological horror at points too, with how it goes and affects the characters.
Yeah, not Tool Time approved. That one.
Not Tool Time approved. Well, okay, I'm glad you were able to fill in there and at least give your context with that, because you are right. This isn't a slasher movie. In fact, this is something a bit different than we were getting with horror movies at the time. Not too different. It still dealt with like some supernatural stuff, but for the time being, it was mostly just demons, ghosts, demons, ghosts. That's about it. That's all we were getting with these mainstream horror films. But now we actually get like a legit monster, an iconic horror monster, Pennywise the Clown, coming back. And I think that kind of just made everybody flock to the theater because A, they might be familiar with the miniseries back in the 80s or 90s when that came out. Really bad miniseries in my opinion. But B, it was just great to have a horror mascot again, because for the time being, we really didn't have too many horror mascots. The Conjuring was trying to get their horror mascots going, like Annabelle, but those movies weren't that good except for part 2, and The Nun, which kind of fell flat on its face. But another reason why I think horror movies were starting to have a resurgence here is because a little distribution studio known by three things, A24, was really kicking it here. And I mean, they were really kicking it. We had the big hits of It Comes at Night, It Follows, The Witch, Hereditary, which if you saw the marketing for that movie, you were probably misled into thinking like, hey, this is going to be one of the best horror movies of all time. And a lot of people came out and went, well, that messed me up, but like I thought it to be scarier. But no, that's besides the point. I'm not going to go into that, the whole discussion and discourse with that film. But A24 was introducing a new type of horror, elevated horror. Now, this is something that the recent Scream film talked about. And, talking about basically, the slasher movies and like traditional horror films versus this new elevated horror where it kind of focuses more on the characters and the horror takes a backdrop until the last 20 minutes where shit just hits the fan and then it becomes a full-on horror film. And A24, I know they're not the ones making the films, they're just the one distributing them, but they have kind of mastered finding those movies and kind of making that like their kind of like niche when it comes to horror films. When you see A24 and it's like a horror movie, you kind of can know now how it's gonna go. And I would give like credit where credit's due. It 2017 and even the sequel in 2019, while the horror and the characters kind of share an equal balance, it did spend a lot of time developing those characters, especially that sequel, as well as the story, to where I think fans of those movies kind of went to go see A24 movies and were like, okay, like it just focuses more on characters, and they slowly start becoming kind of like cult hits or even big box office hits, like not super big but big enough, like Hereditary and Midsommar. Dom, have you seen, other than the ones we reviewed this year, have you seen The Witch, Lamb, Midsommar, any of those?
Lamb as in?
A Lamb is a horror film from A24. It's about...
Okay, I was like, I have seen Silence of the Lambs.
No.
That's a good one. But no, I really haven't, because I really do fall on you guys to recommend whatever with the show. That's why, honestly, like if you traded me for Steve, you'd probably get a much better discussion, but a lot less tool time. But regardless, the fact is, I have seen clips. So our mutual friend Lizzie, when she did see Midsommar, she freaked the hell out and was like, guys, what is this movie? And when I saw clips of that as a result, just looked up some clips of it, I'm like, yeah, this is messed up. I'm good. Like, those are movies. There are, out of all the horror movies I have seen as a result of Sleepless, yeah, like Conjuring, Scream, Halloween, etc., and some more, and the others on the list, only one truly scared me on the level that, like, I think Midsommar or It would scare me. Okay. And Midsommar I respect even more, just from a distance, having not seen it, because it's like, this is daytime horror,
yeah,
and if you can do that really well, that means it's messed up. So I'm good. I'm really good. There's enough horror in my life in the real world in terms of like what's going on out there, man.
Now,
so I don't need any more.
That's good. That's good. I mean, I'm glad. Again, so you have seen Midsommar from the sound of it, though, right?
No, I have not. I've just seen clips, and I'm like, I saw that ending scene, and I'm like, nah, I'm good.
Midsommar, let me tell you, is it scary? Not really, but there are moments
it's just disturbing.
It just disturbing. It makes your skin crawl, and like it lets you into like a false sense of security by it being in the daytime the entire time throughout that movie, that you think like nothing bad's gonna happen, and just little weird shit is just happening. Like there's a scene where the main characters take mushrooms, and you don't know if they're just seeing something or this is actually what's happening in real life, and it just plays. It plays with that the entire time, as well as the trauma that the main character, played by Florence Pugh, is going through. But for those of you who, you're not really into the elevated horror, you're like, I want my horror cut and dry. Again, nothing wrong with that.
Emphasis on the cutting.
Emphasis on the cutting, indeed. There was another studio that was hitting strides again, and I have to pay credit where credit is due. They have also, I think, helped rebounded horror throughout these past few years. While like we had these big studio films from Warner Brothers, like It, even though they released that in 2017, again, Warner Brothers was also responsible for the Conjuring movies, so they were also still making Annabelle movies after It came out, as well as The Nun and all these other movies. So it's just like, hey, as much as like they kind of like had this big box office hit, they were trying to still find another horror mascot icon. But there was one who had a big hit as well in 2017 with Jordan Peele, Blumhouse. Now, the picture I'm not going to show is the movie Get Out, but a movie that came out this year that we did not get a chance to review, but The Black Phone, starring Ethan Hawke. This was a Blumhouse movie, and Blumhouse, if you're not familiar with them, biggest franchises to them, The Purge, I mean, I think that's about it. Oh, Halloween. The Purge and Halloween. I was like, oh, man. I'm like, there's definitely one more out there. But I would say that's their two biggest franchises. They did the rebooted trilogy, David Gordon Green's trilogy of Halloween. If you've been keeping up with the show, you know how we feel about those films. And as well as the Purge movies. And to me, Blumhouse has done just a great job. Now, granted, they've had their misses to where I think they've created some of the worst horror movies we've had in a while. But they've also given us some of the best. Because to me, I think the idea to their mentality of keep the budget low and let the director get creative, allow them to have freedom, has turned into some of the best horror films we've had. Black Phone being one of them for some people. It wasn't personally for me. I know Steve liked this movie more than I did. I did enjoy Ethan Hawke's performance. I did enjoy the direction this movie took. I just thought it was a bit unbalanced when it came to the story in terms of the supernatural elements and the slasher elements. I was just kind of like, this film kind of just feels like it's all over the place. But I had a great time watching it. Hell, another movie from them, Sinister, I think is a fantastic movie and absolutely terrified me when I went to go see it. The Purge, don't really consider them horror movies, more thrillers, but again, just, great action movies in my opinion, but they can be creepy in some ways as well. But Blumhouse has allowed their directors to come in, as we saw with Jordan Peele, and really just give them a playground to play with. A limited budget at that. They try to keep their budgets relatively below the 10 million, 15 million, probably at most is where I've seen like a budget go as high with a Blumhouse film. But Blumhouse is definitely, I think, one who has kind of brought back that classic horror. Like, slasher, ghosts, not just the demons and concept, but actually playing with more like, people have like weirded out visions. Hell, even that Twilight Zone horror when you get with Jordan Peele's films. And I'm not just talking about Get Out. I mean even Nope and even Us as well. Blumhouse has done just, I think, a great job at that. Dom, do you have any... I know we probably reviewed one or two this year, with Halloween Ends being one of them, but in terms of Blumhouse movies, you familiar with any of them?
Maybe not offhand, but the truth is, if it's not A24, it's probably Blumhouse that you and Steve are creaming over.
And that is true. That I want to make that point. I will mention one other contributor to this year that I thought did a great job to horror films, or at least playing with that genre. But Dom actually hit it right on the head. When it comes to actually just a lot of horror films nowadays, it seems like a lot of studios have backed off, because if it ain't A24 or Neon is another one that's been kind of growing, and especially Blumhouse, you really see studios really touching it. But Dom, go on.
I'm just looking at clips of that mushroom trip from Midsommar, and that I'm like, no, hell no, hell no. Psychological horror. The Ring really was the worst movie to start my horror career off as a kid.
Yeah,
because that just messes with me. And it's like, nah, I'm good, man. I really cannot watch that. Let me just speaking in general. Even though I am not a horror guy, even I know that this has been a good time for horror, because when we were young, shout out to the Las Vegas Festival. When we were young, a lot of the horror movies really were just kind of, at least it felt like, you need like statistics to prove this, so I'm working off a gut feeling here, but it felt like it was more the butt of a joke than anything. And I feel like a lot of movies going back, and aside from the actual certified hood classics, a lot of the horror movies you would go back to in the early 2000s and the 90s really would be easy to laugh at, pound for pound. Whereas now, even the lesser ones, they have such good material to bounce off of, and so much momentum, so much more techniques to steal from. Even if they're inferior movies as a result, man, you got stuff like the stuff I'm going to say on my list here. One of them they're all recent because they're from this year, but but even in the past few years, it's like, I can tell like it's a good time. I think a lot of that indie spirit that you saw kind of emerge from the late 2000s and the early 2000s. which has permeated all of film history, but particularly from that time period, has grown up, has matured, has fully formed, come together. And it's when I hear Renaissance, I can't fully appreciate it, but I can recognize it. And if I can recognize it, then that probably means that you're in the middle of it.
Yeah, you are. And this is a great time for horror, as Dom is saying. One of the points I wanted to talk about here is that horror is willing to take risks. And he was kind of touching it there, which just talk about. I mean, I was also like, kind of bringing up
the parody game, and the cliche game has reached its apex probably like years ago.
Yeah.
So that means once you go over that hill, it's like the Austin Powers effect, right? It's like, how does James Bond move past Austin Powers? Austin Powers, the perfect parody of anything, maybe short of like Blazing Saddles, but of its time, of the spy genre, you don't beat Austin Powers in terms of that parody game.
Yeah.
Or at least in terms, of that era. And it's like, how do you do that? Well, you just get better at it. That's how you get Skyfall. That's how you get. I'm blanking on all like some of these great
Casino Royale.
Yeah, exactly. Even like non-James Bond. It's like
the recent Mission Impossible films.
Yeah, all the recent Mission Impossibles. That's how you overcome those parodies. So I think a lot of post scary movie, post all the trope episodes and TV shows about all these horror tropes. How do you get past that? Then you get some of the movies that I'm gonna mention in this list.
Well, I mean, definitely, like, again, horror, I thought, like, is willing to take risks, and we saw that this year with 3 films. Smile, which I thought was just gonna be, I thought that was gonna be a dud. When I saw the reviews.
Hello. Okay, there we go.
Right.
Did I lose you or did you lose?
No,
connection?
I lost connection. I literally in the bottom right hand corner. You'll hear it if you ever watch the recording. I don't know if it'll show up on the screen, but it said OBS got disconnected. What was the last thing you heard me say?
The last thing I heard you was that outro after I made that point about Austin Powers.
Okay, well, good news is the timer reset, so we don't have to take a break. So that should.
It's like, it looks like 6 minutes left.
Oh, does it? On my screen, it's not showing up. Okay, you know what? This is what we're gonna do. Because of that, let's just take our break right now. We'll come back.
Okay.
We'll finish up this discussion on the rise of horror, and then we'll finally get into our best of horror movies of 2022. Keep it right here on Sleepless with Steve. We'll be back right after this. And with that, we're back. No timer. Let's do this.
Tool time!
Tool time is back, baby.
Tim the Woke Man Taylor here. I keep calling him Tim Allen, but it's Tim Taylor, the character at least.
I had to go by the word name Tim still, huh?
I gotta get into that home improvement lore. There is a wiki.
Are you serious?
I mean, technically, I think there's like a copy paste wiki for every show ever. But the fact that someone did have to like type all that in, I love reading obscure wikis.
Yeah.
Just my favorite freaking thing ever. Oh my God.
Oh man. I just closed
That's a hobby. That's a hobby of mine.
Oh, I just closed out my my list. Okay, there. I got it back up. All right. So, anyways, where I left off is that horror's willing to take risk, and I was talking about how Smile before I got disconnected. A movie that I didn't think was gonna be that good. Steve did a great job reviewing it. I thought it was I didn't actually say I didn't see the movie, but it surprised me with the reception it got. It's a movie about mental health. If you haven't checked out Steve's review, please do. It's very good. Pearl is another one. that was another one that took risks, because who the hell would have thought a prequel to X was coming in the same year that X came out? And then Halloween Ends, which I'm sure Dom and I will touch on later on in the show. These movies were taking more and more risk. But another big thing is that franchises are back with horror. We haven't seen franchises really we have with The Conjuring, but I feel like there's more horror franchises now than there was while I was growing up. Because it felt like horror movies came and went. There was just one and done type of movies. But now, look, X, Pearl, we're getting Maxine later on some point. We have Candyman is back. The Halloween trilogy just finished up. Terrifier 2 just came out, if you're a big fan of those movies. A Quiet Place is about to have its spin-off film and then its third and final mainline film. But franchises are kind of bringing that back as well, to why horror, I think, is rising, is that these franchises are successful because they're taking the elements that we love from A24, Blumhouse movies, and actually doing it with these films. And they're actually giving a damn about telling a story, being creative, having the freedom to do something. And it's so cool to see that with franchises in horror, when at one point it was just, we need the next Paranormal Activity and we need the next Conjuring movie because we need to scare teenagers with a PG-13 rating. Go! And it was just that was it for the longest time. Dom, you want to add on to anything here? We'll talk about Halloween Ends as well if you want to, before we jump into our lists.
You are the lead on this one, my friend, because I am just along for this scary this haunted house, Disney haunted house ride. I'm the guy. I'm the girlfriend on the side who's just clinging on to the arm in a traditional sense. But as Tim the Woke Man Taylor, we know that all genders, the whole spectrum of genders, are capable of being the scared person holding the arm of the other. Him, her, they. So,
Jesus Christ. Franchises have been doing really well and everything. I'm just going to continue on here. But another thing I wanted to touch on is that box office this year. Now, of course, top of the box office is what you expect it to be. We got Top Gun Maverick, Jurassic World, Doctor Strange, Multiverse of Madness, Minion, Rise of Gru, The Batman. You got your comic books, you got your Minions movie, you got your dinosaurs, you got your blockbuster film with Tom Cruise. Box office doesn't look that much different if you look at the top 10. But if you go a little bit further down, you'll notice in a row, we have Nope at number 19 overall with 170 million, followed by Smile, 168 million. I hate to say it, but Morbius, 167 million. The Black Phone, 159 million. And then right below it, even though Black Adam's there currently, it's going to soon move up with its recent release. And then right below that, we have Scream with 140 million. Box office-wise, man, horror's been killing it. Even Halloween Ends, it's creeping up. It's at current 84 million. I think that's going to cross 100 million as well, along with the other horror films I just mentioned. We have Barbarian at 42 million, which was great for that film. It's on HBO Max right now, and a lot of people have been tuning in to watch it because of the amount of hype surrounding it. X, 14 million, which is, again, a great turnout for a low budget horror film like that. Same with Bodies. Box office wise, very successful for horror films, especially those first ones I mentioned. For them to cross that, for that many horror films to actually cross the $100 million mark, that's pretty fucking impressive. I'm sorry to use the F word there, but it really is. We used to be at a time when it's horror movies just came and went out of the box office. The fact that we had 6 of them in a row right there, back to back to one another, making that much money, made me very happy to see. Now, there's actually one movie, though, I want to touch on, and then we'll finally get into our lists. The movie from A24, a studio I mentioned that helped kind of start the rise in this, a movie came out called Men. Is a movie kind of similar to their other horror films that is very artistic, elevated horror, but it seemed like nobody gave a damn. And it seemed like this was just a bad year to release it because even A24 was releasing stuff that, well, was more interesting with X and Pearl. They had slasher elements to them, but hell, I love Pearl, and I thought it was way more creative and way more interesting than Men was. I won't go into it too much, but it was just really weird to see that the studio that had these elevated horror films that made decent money at the box office kind of just got, the one film they released that I thought was going to be their elevated horror film of the year and everything. No one really remembers. No one really talks about it. Kind of just came and went. some of the older horror movies come. I don't know. Maybe just stuff is transitioning out of elevated horror. We'll see where time goes. But anyways, without further ado, because we're running a little bit late on time here because of that disconnect now, let's get into our top 3 favorite horror films of 2022. Dom, would you like to start off first, or would you like me to start off?
I will. I'll start off.
You'll start.
I'll start off. So
okay.
you can end. Number 3. My number 3 for Halloween 2022 is Halloween Ends. And there is some bias here, this being the last film that we reviewed. But the fact that this is, if I'm comparing it to Scream, the recent Scream movie, if I'm comparing it there, which may be an unfair thing, but I think there's a lot to compare and contrast. This one definitely takes the cake between the two. So the Scream requel really wasn't that bad. Wasn't horrible by any means. There were some satisfying moments as someone who saw 1 and 2 in anticipation for the recent Scream. But it at the end of the day, it was just like, okay, this is good for fans of Scream.
Yes,
I think I'm not even like that big of a Scream fan.
I'm not gonna go on too long, but as a big Scream fan myself, I did enjoy that movie, but I do recognize the flaws that everybody else has brought up with it.
It's there. It's like, okay, closure. Yeah. I didn't even see the Scream 5 or the one before that.
4.
Where apparently that was 4. Okay, where apparently that wasn't too great. I don't know.
No, that one was good. Again, when it came out, a lot of people didn't like it, and then it had a resurgence and people appreciate it. Kind of like we're hoping with this film.
But yeah, between that and this, which Halloween Ends, the fact that it does something actually pretty damn interesting, and the fact that Michael Myers gets mugged of his own freaking mask is so good. That scene was like, are they really freaking doing this? Are you kidding me? And they actually pulled it off, in my opinion. I'm sure a lot of fanboys were upset.
They were.
But like, I was like, yeah, whatever, screw them. It's like, this is actually refreshing. And this is cool. They're going in a different direction while still and it's a different direction that still is embodiment of the theme of this movie, which is that fear is a disease. It is infectious, and it will cause more death than you realize, even more than the original thing that you were scared of. And that is all 100% embodied here. And that just struck a deeper chord with me than Scream. And the fact that a legacy movie, a very long running franchise where the main character has died multiple times. It's like, this is ridiculous. Come on, off screen and then apparently on screen. But it's like, all right, we're good here. But the fact that they did manage to do that with something with this IP was like, I'm impressed by this. This should be the standard. And unfortunately, Hollywood does not live up to that standard often. So you know what? Hell yeah. Number 3 here. I did not think that a legacy and a long-standing property was going to be able to make this top 3 for me, but it did. And I'm really, again, biased because we watched it. I watched it last week, but still, man, I think it deserves to be there.
No, I completely agree with everything you said. Even the comparison to Scream, like, some people would fight me over this because I know some people who really love the recent Scream. And I did too. Like, I think I gave it the highest rating on here, which was 3 out of 4 stars. But like, I do recognize some of its flaws. It really did, in my opinion, play it safe when it came back. Now I'm hoping the next Scream really, like, pulls something underneath us and really like plays with the genre a bit more, kind of like this trilogy did as a whole. But I very much did enjoy Ends for everything Dom mentioned. The fact that it was something with a legacy and all 3 movies did something unique. Really, and Dom has his interpretation on like what fear does to people and how it's a disease. I looked at it as how like evil can like do stuff to certain people, whether it be an individual like Laurie, whether it be a town in Halloween Kills, and whether it be like just like they need to find that next boogeyman, they need to find that evil, something to blame. With the 3rd film, with Halloween Ends, with the Corey character, which I thought was the biggest surprise of that film. But anyways, are you good there?
Yeah, dude, I'm good.
Okay. I'm going to move on to my number 3. My number 3 is Pearl, directed by Ty West, coming soon to digital platforms. This, man, look, Steve's not here. I'm just going to say it. I did not think X was all that great.
It was solid, but it wasn't. It felt like they were doing the tropes
Yeah.
like solidly.
I don't mean to bash Steve when his name is right there on the show. I don't mean to bash the man, but it was just like when we were reviewing it, I was just sitting there. I'm like, I'm not like, again, I get it. Like, Steve's been looking forward to the film for a long time. He loves Ty West and everything, and for good reason. Ty West is a great director, as I'm about to say why with Pearl. But to me, it was like the first half of X, I was so with it. I was like, I'm loving everything about this. And then you get to the second half, and it's just a slasher movie. No surprises. Everything you see coming. It just kind of like played by the numbers. And I was like, that's unfortunate because I thought the first half of this movie was really damn good. And then they announced that there was going to be a prequel called Pearl. And I was like, all right, I guess I'll go check this out and, have the same experience. And I was like saying to myself, I'm like, all right, here we go. First half, I'm loving this. Now, where's that second half where it becomes a slasher film? No. What I loved about from the start of this movie, it was that the whole way through. Mia Goth absolutely kills it in this movie with her performance. Really getting more time to shine in this movie than she ever did in X.
And she played two roles in X.
Yeah, two roles.
The main character and the main villain. And she still didn't get as much time to shine, or at least didn't feel like, there's more characters in X, or at least at the beginning. But yeah, Pearl is it's a brighter spotlight on her. And it is a really, really intense look into that specific character.
Yeah, it is a great look at that character and how sadistic and twisted she is, man. Like, it made me want to go back and watch X, which I have done because they recently had A24 does these really cool things called screening rooms. If you ever want to check them out, sign up for them. They basically do one night only for like 9 hours. You're able to view a movie, and sometimes they do 2 movies for the price of 1. They're about to do 6 movies each for $6. With all like their horror films, Hereditary, Midsummer, check it out. Enough plugging for A24 though. But this one, I was just so... Mia Goth's performance was great. But the fact that Ty West was able to play with genres here and really switch it up, kind of go from typical slasher movie of the like 70s to like this golden golden farm girl era filmmaking that we saw with like The Wizard of Oz, playing with color and everything. I was like, damn, this is really impressive. And I loved looking at this film. I loved watching this film play out. I think the only thing I had a problem with was the length of the film went on a bit too long. But hell, man, it is one hell of a joyride. And can I just say, holy shit, out of all the characters that died in X, I was like, oh, that sucks. That's sad. That's pretty, upsetting. I felt so sorry for Pearl's dad in this movie, man. That man goes through so much, and he can't move. He has to sit there and just watch stuff play out, and his reactions throughout the whole film always cracked me up. I'm laughing at him. I'm just laughing because I am also as uncomfortable as he is with the scenario that he is put in. Almost being fed to a gator, watching his wife get burned alive in front of him. And I'm not even going to spoil what happens to his character in the end, but it's just like, man, this poor dude.
There's a lot of fridge horror. There's a lot of fridge horror. If you do you know what that is? I don't know if the audience... Fridge horror is when it's a term... I learned it from the internet. From like reading fan fiction and creepypastas. But fridge horror is when like you watch something, read something, whatever media, and then you walk away, and then while you're looking in the fridge, you're going, wait a second. Oh, and then apparently it's when you're like looking in the fridge for food or something. But regardless, there's a lot of that in this movie where it's like, yeah, the dad was literally paralyzed there looking at his wife for a half a day or something, and it's terrifying, like a full day, and it's like, that is messed up. And there's a lot of that in this movie. The fact that how much do you have to say here, Joe?
I'm about to pass off back to you if you want to just take it, because I know where your number 2 is.
Switch to the slides. Number 2. My number 2 is Pearl. We did not share. I obviously shared the slides, but we did not see each other's.
The only
top
one
3.
I saw you have on there is Halloween Ends, which, by the way, I do not have on my list, but that is a very honorable mention for me. But go on.
Yeah. Dude. Pearl, Mia Goth is firing on all cylinders here. And it may be the fact that she gets to focus more on, there's more screen time for one character as opposed to 2 and others, but you watch the full gambit, her repression, her coming out, her depression, her insanity, and then finally just full-fledged murder mode where she is going off on all of these characters. It is a beautiful journey, a horrifying journey,
Oh,
and
yeah.
it's a sad one. Honestly, it's a sad one for her because it's like, yeah, I totally get where you're coming from. Also, you're messed up.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Dude, I went to go see. I had to go see the movie by myself. I was in Ohio during that time. I couldn't do the show.
oh, perfect.
And everything. I had to go see the movie by myself. And like, I literally, like, my friend texted me, "Hey, did you see Pearl?" I'm like, "Yeah, I did." I'm like, "Dude, you gotta text me when you go see it." And like, we were texting. I literally told him, I'm like, "Man, that character literally put all cards." Like, she went all in on one bet that she was gonna make it big in Hollywood, and she put everything down on that.
Dude, that moment in particular too was it's sad, it's horrifying, and it's like,
Yeah.
I'm invested in this moment, don't get me wrong, but I am equally as invested as to what the hell is going. You kind of see it coming.
Yeah.
Because it's like, well, I mean, I guess they could have pulled a rug. But still, it's like,
you do, because
what
it's
the
a
hell is going to
prequel,
happen from here?
But exactly. What the hell is going to happen here? You know where it's going to end, but you're just like, how the hell did it get here? And Ty West did a great job. Prequels usually don't work out that good, especially for horror films, I think, when you make prequel horror films. Ty West did an excellent job, man. Amazing job. Kudos to him.
Top three acting moments in this movie. They're the obvious ones, but they are just, they're still unparalleled. A lot of subtle ones, of course, but the top three is her breakdown, her monologue. I don't think Steve liked the monologue.
Was so good.
Because I know he mentioned in his review that like some scenes went a little too long, and I think he was referring to that. He can't defend himself here, but regardless, that monologue was damn good. Not because of its length. I know that's an easy thing to say, but just because she runs the gamut. The filmmaking here too was so good because it's a static shot, I think, on her, and the whole time it's the tension of what's happening out of screen. It's like, all right, you're looking at her break down and like confess, and it's like, what the hell is this other person that she's talking to on the other end of the table? Thinking. What is their shot going to be? What is their reaction? It's almost comical. Yeah. And when it finally pays off, it's like, yep, this is all paying off beautifully. And then finally is that ending shot. You can find that ending, that credit shot of her breaking down on YouTube right now.
Yeah.
And that is a masterclass. I'm sure a lot of acting workshops are going to look at this and be like, yeah, dude, this is an emotional journey. This is not one note. This is not just a breakdown. This is her speaking through her face going like, yeah, dude, we can make this work. We can do, I can like feel like a second monologue here coming through that face alone. It is so damn good. And that's like seals the deal. That's how you end a freaking movie.
Yeah.
In terms of like that emotional journey.
Completely agree with you there, man. Amazing movie. Check it out if you haven't. Do you have to see X in order to understand Pearl? Yes and no. Like, obviously the context there helps, but it's a prequel for a good reason. It takes place before everything, so you should be fine. I think you'll have
I'll say a hard no. I'll say like absolutely not. You don't even need to watch it.
Yeah. Man, Steve, because I know Steve is on the opposite fence where he thinks X is better than Pearl, and I know you and I are the opposite way. We're like, no, dude, Pearl is way better than X. He's gonna come in here swinging next week. Next up for me, do you mind if I take back over?
Yeah, man.
For me, my number 2 is Nope, directed by Jordan Peele and coming soon to Peacock. This movie, man, look, man, he's 3 for 3 for me right now. I mean, we reviewed it here on Sleepless. If you want to know how I feel about it, you can go check out that review. I won't go long-winded on this one too much. But, man, did I absolutely love seeing this movie. I love the characters. I love the relationship between the brother and sister in this movie. I love seeing Daniel Kaluuya back on the big screen with Jordan Peele because I feel like they have a great working relationship like with Scorsese and Leonardo DiCaprio. I can't wait to see what they do next. But man, Steven Yeun, I mean, talk about a character that like I've just seen so many video essays on now, and I'm getting tired of video essays. I feel like there's too many of them on YouTube, but this was a character that's like, no, I gotta actually watch this one because like this character was just fascinating to me, and the whole idea of like, like spectacle and selling and all that stuff, how it plays into that character and to his arc in the movie as well. I thought like, damn, that is just some good writing. He is not on screen that much. Steven Yeun, though, when he is on screen, he is killing it with every scene he is featured in. Nope has again, I in my review, I even said there are a few times they kind of just like say something and they drop stuff. But overall, it is such a good movie, and it has one badass climax. One that I was on the edge of my seat because I was like, I don't know how this is gonna play out, and I am like really loving the thrill of it. If you don't know what it is by now, I hope you've seen Nope if you're tuning into the show, but it is a UFO. I won't say what the UFO is. I won't talk about much more than that, but it is one intense ass chase scene, and I was on the edge of my seat. Check it out. It's gonna be on Peacock soon. Is it better than Get Out? And I said this in our review, no, but stop comparing everything to Get Out. He's probably never gonna hit that stride again, but it's not like he hasn't been making gold since then.
Yeah, for sure. I went into this movie expecting the UFO, and I came out terrified of monkeys. Like, dude, the monkey scenes actually stand out in my mind the most.
Yeah, no,
that is such a just hiding under the table as a kid, looking through the sheer tablecloth. That's like a lot of people can relate to that.
Yeah,
like just that general feeling of hiding under the bed, hiding under this, hiding there. While trying to find, the thing that's looking for you.
Yeah.
Dude, that is such a genius. That's so simple. It's so freaking simple.
It really is.
And it's so freaking terrifying. The monkey's not even that scary in isolation.
Yeah.
Monkeys aren't even that scary. But it's like, oh yeah, no, this is a wild animal. I forgot. It's freaking psychotic because we've been abusing the hell out of it. And yeah, it's going to mess you up. And it is... Ah, man, and you're right. To me, Steven Yeun was my favorite character because he's so deep. There is so much depth there, and it's so tragic. And it's like, you freaking idiot! I feel so bad for you.
What was it? He was much more interesting than and I think the actor did a great job playing him. But the cinematographer character who speaks in fortune cookies.
Oh yeah,
it's just like
Nope. Nope is a Hollywood send-up movie.
Yeah,
it is. There are so many Hollywood jokes in there, jokes about Hollywood. And that character is 100% the auteur. I feel like that's like Christopher Nolan, essentially. Maybe not in mannerisms, but just that whole vibe, And when he said, "We don't deserve the impossible shot," it is simultaneously badass and so funny to me.
It really
I love that character too.
And speaking of cinematography, Hoyt van Hoytema, I probably pronounced his last name incorrectly, but amazing job cinematography wise. The man has worked with Nolan with Tenet and Interstellar and Dunkirk. All those movies, regardless of what you think of them, look beautiful, and he did an amazing job with Nope as well.
100%. Now, Nope did not make my top 3. Simply because I kind of took an approach of what is a horror movie. I had to define that in myself first. I'm not debating that Nope is horror, because it is. It definitely is. But in terms of like the distilled horror, it actually helped me inform as to what I want to include on this list. So did you have anything else to say for your number 2?
Other than, you talked about the scariest scene being the monkey scene. It's definitely that. And a scene that terrified the absolute hell out of me, because I haven't felt this way about an alien movie in years. When I saw War of the Worlds and those people were in the cages and they were being scooped up and you didn't see what happened to them. I love War of the Worlds, dude. And it terrified the hell out of me as a kid, because I was like, what the hell is happening to people when they go in there? I won't say what Nope does. It has a very similar scene to that. And I had to actually cover my, not my eyes, but I had to cover my ears because the screaming I heard actually made me feel uncomfortable. It did such a good job.
That is the most disturbing scene of the film, easily, because it's just horror distilled into like a single room, a single cramped.
And not only is it just the most terrifying thing in the film for me, but I think you and I both agree it then leads to the most badass shot of the movie, where the UFO is above a house and it does something that I won't ruin.
Mm-hmm.
But anyways, Dom, take us home, man, with your number 1.
My number 1 horror movie. My number 1 horror movie of 2022 is We're All Going to the World's Fair. What movie actually scared me the most? That's kind of one of my criterias for this list. It's like, what movie actually terrified me the most? It is this one. It is this indie darling that is making some small rounds, not enough in my opinion. And it's like, yeah, dude, this is psychological horror. This is the more indie version of Midsommar. Not in any other parallel, for the fact that it is indie, coming into it. Not that Midsommar's indie, but you know what I mean. That elevated horror, that approach to it. And it's like, yeah, dude, this is definitely freaking me out. I mentioned in my review for this movie when we talked about it that I watched this movie on my computer on HBO Max, but I had to like make the browser window like half of the screen because like I was like it helped me, and like so my desktop was kind of showing on the side there. It's like it just helped me like diffuse the situation, diffuse some of that tension in myself. I was like I 100% pussied out of this movie. I watched it, of course, but I totally was like, I am not gonna go all in on this movie. I'm not gonna have the lights off 100%. I'm not gonna have the screen even fully there, which is I am totally spitting in the face of the cinematographer. Don't get me wrong. I admit that, but that is how I watched The Ring. That is how I watched something scary when I was a kid. I just had to do it, and it's like leaving the lights on in the hallway when you sleep. Same exact thought process here, dude. There is this movie can be 100%. It's so avant-garde. Let me say this. It is avant-garde enough. It is open enough that you can interpret it 1,000 different ways. You can interpret it from someone who's having like trans issues, like trying to,
identities in general.
My woke joke. The whole woke term is so hilarious to me because it's not a thing. But regardless, you could determine like, is it someone like struggling through like trans issues? Is it just regular adolescence? Is it like the story of a serial killer on their next prey? You could even just say the most removed, like the most plain, the most aspect thing of it's like, yeah, it's just two people online trying to play a game and it like goes too far. You could take it as simple as that. And I could totally buy into that interpretation. But it's the fact that it runs that gambit emotionally, right? Where it's like, this is that perfect sense of the unknown. And it plays with that anticipation. That opening scene, awesome. You're waiting for a jump scare for like, it goes on for like 7.5 minutes. Dude, I'm like, I was like clutching my pearls. Yeah. My blanket. I'm like, oh Jesus Christ, come on. I was like internally, like I was having like a Mia Goth moment where I was like just do it. Freaking, I was having a Shia LaBeouf moment. Yeah. Scare me already. Freaking scare me already. And then it doesn't. It blue balls. It's a blue ball moment. I'm like, God damn it, this is actually drawing me in. 100%. I don't know if it's on your list, dude, but like that and the Steve mentioned it, the buffering.
Oh my God.
Woo. That is so good. That is pretty damn freaking clever. I had a lot of fun with this movie, and it scared the bejesus out of me in a very non-conventional way. I love the SCP Foundation. I love some lost media. I love some of that back rooms. I love that 21st century internet horror.
Yep.
I love
all that stuff.
Slender Man, 100%. I love that stuff. I'm scared of it. I'm distanced from it, and I also love it.
Yep.
So yeah, dude, this is the leading movie in my mind in terms of what scared me the most. We're all going to the World's Fair. I was at the World's Fair. I was on the coasters. I had the bad, carny trip, and I was all in.
No, to answer your question, it is not on my list. As you remember, I wasn't as much in love with this movie as you and Steve were. We all gave it very different ratings, mine being the lowest. But everything Dom has said, it's there. I'm not going to deny it. It is there in this movie. It just didn't affect me the way it did to Dom. And that's the thing about horror, is that it might not appeal to everybody with what a filmmaker decides to do with its story and how it uses horror. And I think this is a great pick for number one, because it's going to contrast with my number one pick. But a little bit more to talk about this movie, to give credit where credit is due. Yeah, no, I mean, this movie, psychologically, it can mess you up. Like, I mean, if you really think about, like, Steve, Dom is absolutely right. You can look at this movie and interpret what it is all about in your own way. And I do the same thing as Dom. I loved living in that era of, the creepypastas. I'm not to it as much as I was anymore, but as a kid, man, I loved playing all the Slender games, Jeff the Killer, all the creepypastas, all the ones that regard whatever that Legend of Zelda one is, where the kid drowned and his soul is in the cartridge of the N64 game. Just weird like stories that just like we don't really typically see. And this film is kind of like a love letter to that era. It really is. It is like if you really want to know more about this movie, I really do. I highly suggest checking our review because we go further and deeper with it, and you'll get a good idea of what kind of movie it is with our review as well. But if alone what Dom said, and even what I'm teasing up a little bit here too, has interested you, it is on HBO Max, as Dom pointed out. Definitely go check it out if you're very interested in anything we just said about this movie.
Yeah, I did.
Anything else you want to add on there, homie?
SCP Foundation. That is my jam, bro. It's gotten very meta. I love to see how this develops because no one's making money off of it in terms of like the stories. It's completely internet crowdsourced, and even though this doesn't reference that at all, this movie, it just reminded me of that spirit, that internet spirit, that indie spirit, that like just that closed, not closed, but like just two people trying to make something spirit. It's really good.
It really sucks it hasn't really gone around too much with people because I really do feel like that type of crowd that has been involved in the SP stuff, as you're saying, would love the movie, at least appreciate it and have like some love towards it. But if you're all good, I'm gonna move on to my number one. Quick mention, I just want to give like a shout out to a few other horror films that came out this year that we didn't really get to talk about on Sleepless. Fresh, which is on Hulu. Hulu was another studio I meant to bring up. Their original films that they've been releasing and distributing, Fresh as well as Prey, were absolute good time to watch at home. Fresh is a horror rom-com starring Sebastian Stan, so that's pretty unique if you ask me. But I very much enjoyed those two movies. Wanted to give a quick shout out to them. Very much enjoyed Bodies, Bodies, Bodies as well. That will be on streaming soon. Check that out if you haven't. But anyways, let's just move on to my number one. My number one, in complete contrast to Dom with his pick and like, you know, how psychological it is. Just straight up classic horror movie type movie. I hate to say that because now I sound like Harry Styles. But it is number one for me is Barbarian. Directed by Zach Krager and is now available on HBO Max. I am not going to say much about this movie other than this movie has done a great job at making me go, what the hell is going to happen next? It's the same reason why Dom loves We're All Going to the World's Fair, because it is the unknown of what the hell is going to happen next. Where is the story going and everything? And Barbarian does that, but it does that with the classic, this is legit a horror house. Like, this is a scary house, whatever you want to call it, haunted house type thing. I'm not going to say what it is about. I'm just going to say this. This movie has ruined Airbnbs for me. I don't want to go to it. I don't want to stay at Airbnbs anymore. I know I probably will because sometimes they are cheaper than hotels, but you best stand believe I am locking my door at night. I am double checking the windows, everything. It plays with your expectations throughout the first 20 minutes. You really think you're just going to actually just watch a genuine, like, maybe romantic film here for a hot second between the two leads, and then it takes a very twisted ass turn, and you don't know where it's going to go next there. And then it jumps. It just straight up cuts to a different storyline that relates to what's happening back with the main characters, and you're just wondering, how the hell, what does this have to do with anything? And as it slowly starts to connect, you're just like, oh shit, we have to go back to this house now with a whole different set of characters? What the hell is going to happen? I'm not going to go too much farther than that, but it is a genuinely frightening good time. It is currently on HBO Max. It is a great movie to watch for this Halloween weekend, along with all the other movies Dom and I mentioned here on our list. Dom, I know we said do not check out Barbarian because it is definitely the movie that made you go, nope. And I'm sticking with that as well. If you are not a horror movie person, like, and if you've been watching the show and you're just trying to like see like what you can handle, if you are afraid of just going into haunted houses, you're afraid of like what the hell is in the dark, I don't know what's down that hallway, I don't want to find out what's down that hallway, do not watch this movie because this movie plays with all of those fears. If you are scared of what is in the unknown, and by the unknown I don't mean like, you know, like Frozen 2 here, I mean like literally what the hell is down the corner, down the stairs from your own house, don't watch this movie.
Can I just say, so I just looked up the Wikipedia for this.
Yeah.
Right. What a crazy freaking like coincidence or like out of nowhere thing for me. Zach Kreger is the director for this.
Yeah.
The whitest kids you know. Are you kidding me?
Hey man,
It's like
horror movie directors. Jordan Peele. What's his name from The Office? The guy who played Jim. Oh my God.
I know who you're talking about.
Him,
I can't remember his name either.
Zach Kreger. A lot of hell. Danny McBride with the Halloween trilogy. They've done something now where it's like they know how to play with your emotions when it comes to comedy, so they know how to hit those same emotions when it comes to horror.
It's been said, if you can master comedy, then you've pretty much got it in the bag, or like, because like that is like the hardest thing to do.
Yeah.
And you see that in so many other instances. Like, why is Adam Sandler such a great actor when he tries, like a dramatic actor? That's because he's already good at like making people laugh. If you can make someone laugh, you can make someone do anything else. You can, in terms of like, scaring them, making them cry, whatever. If you can do that, and dude, Zach Kreger, like the whitest kids you know, is an integral part of a lot of millennials, like comedy, that internet comedy, that inappropriate comedy that is like, yeah, I can't believe we said these things back then, and I'm kind of ashamed with it, but the heart of it is still good.
Yeah.
It's like so many of those sketches are so a lot of them are still timeless, in my opinion.
The sniper...
And rest in peace, Trevor Moore.
Yeah,
rest in peace,
Trevor Moore. Yeah,
one of the OGs of that time, and it is what a surprise that freaking Zach Kreger is director for this film. Yeah, dude, I am all here for it.
And it features both Trevor and Zach. The sniper with the office sniper is still like one of my favorite skits. Where
that's a good one.
It's a corporation battle. Literally, a rival corporation hires a sniper to kill a CEO, and just how it plays out is hilarious.
Band of Brothers, where it's just three brothers in World War, like literally like brothers, as in they're all related, but they're in World War II fighting the Germans, but they're arguing like a bunch of 10-year-olds. That's such a simple joke, but it's so good where they go with it.
We're gonna wrap things up here because the countdown's almost done here. We have a few other topics I wanted to touch, but unfortunately we are way past OT right now. 2
to 3 minutes? No way.
No way. I try to keep it there. The disconnect didn't help as well. I was hoping we could touch on some of these other things. But that's going to do it about here for Sleepless with Steve. Dom, thank you so much for showing up today. I know like this might have been like, not your type of wheelhouse when it comes to horror films, but you did a great job, I got to say. You really contributed to the topic very well.
Steve and Joe, they have absolutely guided me through the world of horror, because it is not my thing at all. I'm so scared of it. I'm such a coward. But they have really guided me through it. And for both of you gentlemen, I can just say,
that's good.
Thank you, Tim, the woke man Taylor here. Also, screw Tim Allen's conservative comedy. It's just stupid costume. Thank you.
Yeah, everybody have a great night. Have a safe Halloween, and we'll see you next week on Sleepless with Steve.